Well, welcome back to the channel. Guitar for Dummies Peer Tutoring. I'm Dan, your peer tutor. Well, today's a special new guitar day. Aren't they all? But no, this one's actually a little bit different. So for one, by a small margin, it's the most I've ever spent on a single guitar. But that's what makes it so special. So, kick back, relax, story time. So, as if you saw my guitar solo video a few months ago, I told the story of how I came to have my current acoustic, which is my my Taylor, my Koa Taylor 224 CE. It started out, my dad passed away, and I had some money left over after paying some bills off with my share of the estate, and I thought it would be nice to get something nice as a commemorative. And decided on an acoustic guitar. At that time, I only had a couple of electrics. Wasn't playing acoustic as much at the time. And to make a long story short, I picked the guitar out. I actually got a Gibson Hummingbird Pro from Guitar Center. And when I went to Guitar Center, I was like, okay, let me try out some Gibsons. And I picked a couple up off the shelf and played a couple cowboy chords that I liked and said, yeah, I like this one, and grabbed it. It wasn't until, I don't know, a year or two later, and I realized that wasn't a wise move. Nothing wrong with the Gibson Hummingbird Pro, but because I didn't really test out very thoroughly, and so I discovered later on, when I had the capo up, that the neck was really big for my hand. So, okay, so I put the guitar up for sale, and then a person actually traded me a Taylor T5. Fortunately, a good friend of mine, Ted, was there when I made that trade, who also really liked that Taylor T5 and offered to buy it from me if I ever decided I wanted to sell it. Well, it turned out that the T5 was something that I wished I liked it more than I did. But, so, I sold it to him, and I bought the Koa 224 there. And it's a wonderful guitar, and I was quite happy with it. And then about a month and a half ago, I went to the Northeast Guitar Expo in Windsor, Connecticut, and I discovered there is a luthier who's operating like a mile and a half from where I grew up. And remember, the whole point of buying originally the Gibson, eventually the Taylor, was a commemorative for my dad. Well, my dad raised me and my brother and sisters in Wolcott, Connecticut, a nice small town. And I grew up there, and my dad stayed in that house I grew up in until the day he passed away. So to find a luthier a mile and a half from there, now granted that luthier wasn't operating when I was growing up, he's only been there less than 20 years, but still. Caught my eye at the expo when I saw the sign that said Cedar Lake Guitars. And I'm like, is that the Cedar Lake in Wolcott? And the guy's like, yeah. So yeah, so having a guitar made by this luthier ties in very nicely to the reason why I bought a guitar originally. And having played some of his guitars and finding one that I really liked, I said, you know, I gotta do this. This fits perfectly into the story behind having this guitar. And so I picked one of the ones he had in stock. He didn't have many because he's making these by hand. And I asked him to make some modifications to it for me, which he obliged. And so now I'm on my way to pick it up. So this is really cool. And when this video is all said and done, you'll see some pictures of how the process is actually done. He was gracious enough to allow me to take some pictures in his shop and to explain to me some of the finer points of guitar making. And I'll give you a rundown of what that guitar is made of. So, yeah, stay tuned. So here it is. So check this thing out. Look at this. Nice golden yellow frets. Look at that rosette. You see like this recurring diamond theme. Even in these dots on the side of the neck. little diamonds on there. So it's got nothing to do with the fact that the luthier's wife is in the diamond business. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. Ebony bridge. Bone nut and saddle. And what are the bridge pins?
Plastic.
Okay.
Ivory always they're being cold, so kind of duplicates the ivory with these kind of lines.
Yep. And we've got a, is this the LR bags?
Yes.
Pickup? LR bags pickup?
LR.
All right. There we go. So let's see how this thing sounds now. Let's see. Nice, let's see. How's it do with finger picking here? Sound even better if I got the song right. Very nice. All right.
That's good. Now I'm going to tell you one thing that I found.
What'd you find?
Too much treble makes it sound like it's rattling, but it's not.
So you're saying this is a treble maker?
It's the treble maker, correct? So when I lower it, I shut it off, and you listen. There's no rattle. There's nothing. Then you turn it back on. If you give it too much treble, that's what it's going to sound to you like, but it's not the guitar, I guarantee you. It's got to be in the mic. I mean, that's not the greatest.
So this is a Engelmann spruce top from the Rocky Mountains, correct? And then we've got Padok back and sides with a solid mahogany one-piece neck. Very nicely done. These are Godot tuners. And yeah, it's very nice.
105 ratio.
Yeah. Did you say, what was it? What did you say the scale length was again?
I'm sorry?
What did you say the scale length was again?
Well, the scale is 24.9.
24.9. Okay, very nice. Yep.
Martin Short.
Yep. Very good.
Martin Short.
All right. Geez, must be brand new or something.
I do that.
All right, and you said this is what, the 10th guitar you've made?
No. I've sold about 10, and I've got a dozen here, so I got.
Okay, so about 20.
I'm on my 25.
Gotcha.
I'm on my
Very
25.
nice. Cool. So, what got you into? I know you said you've been doing woodworking as a career, but what got you into luthier? Okay, you go.
So out of the Army, about 21 years old, I applied for a luthier's job. But my work was so terrible that the guy didn't even consider me.
What? I mean, when you wanted to just like jump right into it, from building cabinets or whatever it was you're building to.
I continued to build. I built a couple of guitars, but in New York, I lived in New York City at that time. In New York City, a workshop space is, unless you have money.
Well, tell me about your first build.
Oh, my first build was
amateurly.
My first build was back then. It was back then.
So this is
when I was like 20, so I was 21, 22 years old. Now I'm 72. That was 50 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. I have one of my guitars that I didn't build it, but I've had it since the 70s. You know, so I've always been involved in guitar. And then about 10 years ago, my brother said, "Why don't you build me a guitar?" Because you used to do it, you know, when we were young. And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And that was it. Once I built that first one for him, I just couldn't stop.
So did you build like nothing in the way of guitars from 50 years ago until 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. So you put it on hold for 40 years.
Put it on. It was amazing that,
All right.
you know, guitars was such a great thing for me as a young man because it really kept me out of trouble. It was a great thing for me. And then as an old man, retired old man, to find it again and get me excited about something is also a blessing.
Right.
So it was really, guitars have really worked for me. It's been like my religion in a sense, you know.
I guess that's kind of like the essence of a dream job is when either you make enough money or don't need to care about how much money you're making, you love what you do.
If you're worried about making money, don't go into Luthery. Forget that. Only reason I can do this is because I'm retired and I have a shop.
Yeah.
But if you're a young man starting out and you want to be a guitar maker, you can be done, but I guess you have to go and train with some of the famous guitarists, guitar makers, and
as nice as this
start there.
And as nice as this guitar is, it's a beautiful guitar. It is not cheap from my standards, from handmade guitars standards. It's very inexpensive, but frankly, if one wanted to make a living making guitars like this, he's working for minimum wage for what he's selling them for. So this is a bargain. So, but yeah,
and I want to keep it that way. I want people to have a good handmade guitar for a reasonable price. My goal is not to exceed $3,500.
I especially like how your approach to that. You want the player to not be afraid to take it out of the case and play it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know.
I want to scratch. I don't want to pick guard. It's a guitar. It should be used. Should be played. And then come by and buy another one.